This mixer is on loan from Allen Heath and will be returned to them when we're done. This is not a sponsored video. Alright, so we should be recording on the CQ-18T. I have a hard time saying 18T without sounding like AT&T, but here we are. So first things first, much like any piece of gear you buy these days, we need to get our firmware up to date, and to do that was actually really easy. Before getting into the firmware, I connected an Ethernet cable to the mixer, set the network to hardwired Ethernet and then automatic. It pulled an IP address from my network, and I was able to immediately attempt to connect to it. Once I did, it told me I needed the firmware. I was able to actually initiate the download and the update using the iPad app, confirming it on the mixer itself. This is definitely one of the easier processes I've gone through, and I love that once it's connected to your network, you can pull the firmware in and it'll take care of the rest. Since updating the firmware, I've had this mixer on my desk for a few weeks now. I've been using it as my primary audio interface and to record using the onboard recorder. Typically at this point, I would do a complete walkthrough of all of the mixer's features step by step. However, when I've done that in the past with small mixers like this, they quickly become outdated because these mixers are entirely driven by software and firmware that gets updated regularly. So instead of going down that route here with this mixer, I thought I'd focus more on some of the features that have just caught my attention and what has stood out to me so far, both good and bad. I won't make you sit through the whole unboxing here, but one thing I would like to call out is the power supply they've used. It's an external power supply, but it is not a proprietary power supply, and I love that. It's just a regular DC barrel jack, 12 volt, center positive, 5 amps, and it's from a nice company called Fidus, who make really decent quality power supplies for all sorts of different things, including medical equipment. But I think regardless of the power supply they've included, everybody will be just happy to see that it's a standard barrel jack and not something like what QSC used on the Touch Mix, because that was kind of a nightmare. You can see how quickly this mixer boots up. It does a really good job of getting up and running and passing audio very quickly. Whenever you boot it up, no matter what state you left it in, you land at this quick start screen. And this isn't a demo mode. This is actually where you choose from quick start templates for this handful of different configurations. It's not the same page where you would recall a scene that you've saved. This is a whole different thing with just some basic startup templates. I don't think I'd ever use it, and personally, I'd prefer the mixer to restart wherever I've left it and have the home button be somewhere where I'm going to live a lot while I'm mixing, not while I'm setting up the mixer. Even though I instinctively want to select stuff, the main rotary encoder is not a selection button. You have to do that on the screen. And the soft rotary encoders on the left-hand side, as well as the soft function keys on the right-hand side of the screen, you can go in and choose from a ton of different things to put there, or you can set the rotary encoders to smart rotaries mode, where they will automatically assign to the functions you're looking at on the screen, which is super intuitive and is how I want it to work, and that's great that you can do that. A really cool trick that I learned from Christopher at Allen Heath is to set one of your soft function keys to toggle the smart rotaries on and off. Then you can choose 3 functions. I've chosen high pass filter, compressor threshold, and panning, and assign those to the knobs. And you can use those, but then when you need to dig into something like an EQ, you can quickly toggle on the smart rotaries and you'll have the knobs available right away. It really is the best way to use this mixer, in my opinion, now that I've learned this, and it absolutely makes me a lot faster on this mixer. So big thanks to Christopher for that hot tip there. And if you've got one of these, definitely give this a try. I think you'll be surprised at how different it feels from the one or the other approach to the smart rotaries. This really does give you a lot more control. Before learning that trick, I was using the soft keys for some other functions. I found it useful to keep the top key set to PFL or solo. The second one I've had set as a playback, but here I'm moving it over to a tap tempo for a delay. And then the third one I had set to arm and start the recording on the multi-track, but then I had a little issue with that. Now the soft key works fine to start the recordings now, and I haven't been able to recreate this problem since, but after setting up that soft key initially and then going to arm the multi-track, it just went into arming mode, but it never actually started the recording, and it was essentially frozen like that until I restarted the mixer. So there was nothing else I could do to get it out of that mode at that point, and I had to restart. But that button works fine now, and again, I've not been able to recreate this failure, so maybe just an unlucky one-off, but there you go. Now in real-world use, with the SD card being brought into your computer, this one was formatted in the mixer. You'll see that the SD card is given a name of no name, and I've not found a way to change that. And then you can see the folders here are all dated December 31st, 1969. And then the folders you see under the main folder get incremented every time you make a new recording, but the files inside of them get the exact same name, and that's the channel name. You can see I added an F to the channel name about halfway down, and it updated. But every time you make a new recording, you just get the same file names. They don't increment at all, and they're all dated from 2017. So this makes it extremely hard to use these files in a real production. So hopefully that's something they can address pretty easily in a future update. It'd be great to have some more options as to how the dates and file names are recorded, but I'll leave it at that for now. Another neat feature you can try out is the auto set function for setting input gain, and we'll try it here real quick with my trusty sound bullet. It's as simple as plugging in your input, make sure you can see a little bit of level so you know it's active, and then hit auto set, and it will go ahead and determine what the optimal gain should be. And in my testing, this works really well with strong signals like this tone generator or a synthesizer or an instrument, but I did have a little bit of trouble with it with spoken word. Yeah, a little bit of level. Hey, hey, hey. So you see we have level. Hey, hey. Auto set. Listening. Hey, check 1, 2. Hey, hey, hey. Check 1, 2. Hey, check 1, 2. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey. It says adjusting. Hey, check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Yep. Hey, hey, hey. Check 1, 2. You can see the signal's gone away. It says complete, and it doesn't make any adjustment, and now it's turned the auto gain on. And if I turn this back up, there's my microphone again. Now, if I do this on a channel with no input, you can see it will put a question mark up here, and then it'll tell me that there's no input, and check my connections, make sure I have phantom power on, and so forth. So there we go. So AutoSet could be a really handy feature depending on what you're doing, and they've even included the ability to multi-select a number of different inputs at one time, or all the inputs, and have it run. So you can just plug everything in, get the band started playing, and hit that, and it's going to get you pretty close, and that's really handy. So here's a cool feature called Quick Channels that lets you choose from some presets of kind of one knob setups for different instruments. You can choose a drum channel, for instance, or a vocal channel, and it'll give you these different presets that you can kind of shape the sound with just using one knob if you're not super confident with adjusting all of the settings independently. Once you've found a setting that's close enough for what you're doing, you can then convert these channels to full channels, and that will take whatever settings you've got here and break them out into those individual processors so you can adjust the EQ, the compressor, the gate, the high pass filter on your own. But it'll take the settings you found here in this one knob setting and hold on to them so you can dial in a setting quickly, and then when you're ready to get into fine-tuning things, you can convert the channel and then do that. So not something a lot of professionals might use starting a mix up from scratch, but if you're new to mixing, this could be a huge advantage to get things roughed in and get up and running without having to learn the whole mixer right up front. Now we see there's the EQ I applied, and here's the compressor we had. The gate was not on. You can turn that on here if you want, but now you have full control of all the parameters. Thanks for hanging in there. We've got a quick giveaway. Leave a like and comment if you live in the United States. Sorry to all the global viewers. And in 30 days from the release date of this video, I'll pick one person and I'll send you a pair of these bags and a sticker pack. Thanks so much for watching. Let's get back to work. Here's a feature that I really like. It's called Quick Fire, and it gives you a unique look at all the processing that's turned on this bank of faders, and you can toggle things on and off right from there. So it's a very handy way to get an overview of what you've got going on each channel, and to audition things even on or off, or just turn things off very quickly. So I like this a lot. It's in the drop-down menu on the processing page, and a very useful feature there. Another feature that I really like is the AMM auto mixing, and it works really well. It's very similar to a Dan Dugan in the controls. You can turn it on or off per channel. You can then weight different channels, so depending on where the microphones are positioned, or if one person's just got a lot more energy than another, you can weight how the auto mixer responds to each microphone, and then you can also select it to follow fader, and that takes the channel send level to the main left-right output into consideration when calculating the mix. It's pretty versatile, and a lot of folks I know, what I've read online, are going to buy this specifically for that feature to use in corporate situations. And if you're looking for something this size with auto mixing, I mean, I remember when we used to pay hundreds of dollars to rent a Dan Dugan system, the hardware version, to patch into a board. So for the price of this overall mixer, if you just want the auto mixer, it's a great value. Other features that I tested that I know folks will ask about, the Bluetooth. It works fine. It's going to be range dependent upon your device, whatever you're connecting to it, not the mixer. And it only goes one direction. I know I'm going to get that question for sure. You can connect your phone to it as a Bluetooth source, but you cannot connect from the mixer out to other Bluetooth items and send audio over Bluetooth to a receiver. So just for the folks that are worried about Bluetooth, there you go. If you do want to connect to a device for live streaming, there are two different modes you can use with the USB connection, and that's stereo mode or multi-track mode. You can do that in 48K or 96K, and there's pickoff points for where you want to pull that signal from, either right off the preamp or all the way down through and past the auto mixer. So very flexible on how you can route both the inputs and outputs going to a device like an iPhone or an iPad, and it's a very capable interface in its own right. So I think we've covered most of the stuff that stood out to me so far. The mixer itself works really well, and you can download the app right now from the App Store for your tablet and play around and see how the software works. It's almost identical between the app and the mixer. So if you want to see how the compressors and gates and EQ look and how they function, dive into the app and get a look at it yourself. And I think you'll see that it's quite capable. And I'd feel comfortable taking this out on a corporate job or any small job that it's capable of handling the inputs and outputs on right now. I'd be 100% comfortable to drop this in to a small corporate gig, a breakout room, or really anything that would fit on this little mixer, and be confident that it's going to handle it and have the tools I need to get, quality sound and deal with any sort of feedback. This mixer does also feature FBA feedback assistant processing on the outputs. I didn't get a chance to test that in a real environment, but from what I've read, it works very well, and it's certainly got plenty of features. If you are looking to pick one of these up, I would personally advise to skip the case. This case is not great, and unfortunately the way they've made it, you've got to line up all the knobs with the cutout in the lid to get it to close right. It's really finicky. The foam's only glued in, so for $150 is what this case sells for at the time of filming. I would personally get a Pelican or something either harder or smaller. This is a pretty tall case compared to how big the mixer is, and makes it pretty difficult, if not impossible, to actually fit this in a backpack. With the mixer being pretty much all metal, I would have loved to have seen a hard cover for the top, just something that you could snap on, protect the knobs, protect the screen, and I'd be happy to throw this in my bag or another case or my Pelican and go with it. I don't need, 8 inches of foam in every direction or whatever. So that'd be great to see something like that either from them in the future or maybe from a third party. But if Allen Heath is serious about their claim that this is a mixer they want you to throw in your backpack, simple and intuitive control in a unit you can fit in your backpack. I like the sound of that. They really ought to give you some way to do that, in my opinion, and the current case is not it. So I'd skip that one for now, and hopefully something better will come out down the road. So huge thanks to Allen Heath for making this video possible, and also to Chris Leonard from the Loose Connections podcast for actually setting this all up. I really appreciate the support that he's always given to this channel. So if you've got any questions, I do have a chance to hang on to this mixer a little longer. So if you've got any questions or anything specific you would like to see that I didn't cover in this video, leave it in the comments for sure, and I'll do my best to either get you an answer or do a follow-up video in the future. Hopefully this was a useful, kind of quick look. I know it ran a little longer than I expected, but I appreciate you hanging in there, and don't forget to enter the giveaway. I'll see you in the next one.